move to the next slide. You're here for the update on what needs to happen in the school meals program now. So we'll move to the next slide. Your presenters for today are our Zoom operator, Erica Arter, Aspen Kosmachek, and myself, Sean Von Drotchek. We couldn't be happier to have you. And let's move to the next slide. Some housekeeping basics. Please use the chat box to ask your questions. We will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. You will be muted during the presentation and unmuted during the Q&A time. So we've got some more housekeeping tips on the next page. We have, hopefully you have your slide deck and handout packet, and we will enter those in the chat box in case you do not have those links. We will be going through the handout packet in order. At the top of each page in the upper right is a page number, and we will be referring to that page number as we go through the packet. Some of the handouts have page numbers on the bottom, but we will be using the page number at the upper right. And then also on page 1 of your handout packet, you will find the Professional Standards Training Certificate. You are receiving 3 hours of continuing education for today's presentation. That's a requirement for food service staff that they obtain a certain number, depending upon their position, of professional standards training hours annually. So today's presentation is 3 hours. So please complete that for yourself and keep that on file. Next slide. Once again, we want to make sure we have a record of everyone that has attended today's presentation. So in the chat box, please enter your information in the Google form. And we will be talking about important resources to make your job easier, required school year 25-26 program updates. We will be reviewing meal eligibility, the process of direct certification. We will review free and reduced meal applications. We'll talk about the civil rights requirement, record retention in the program, and at the end, we'll talk about other required topics, program requirements, and we will leave plenty of time at the end of today's presentation to answer your questions that you've entered into the chat box. So, what are those resources that are going to help you with your job? Well, we've included on pages 2 through 13 the Nutrition Services Staff Directory. And on our directory, you will find the phone number for our central office, as well as the 800 number if you're calling from outside of Lincoln. The central office email address is also provided. While you can certainly email any of the program specialists that work in the school meals program, the general office email is monitored very closely. And so Joanne Marquez, our office associate, monitors that inbox, and she passes on those emails rather quickly. So just know that that email address is also available to you. Katie Parch is the Director of Nutrition Services, and Nutrition Services encompasses all the child nutrition programs within our office. So in addition to the school nutrition programs, Staff that work in other child nutrition programs are listed on the directory, as well as Lauren Christensen, our child nutrition and school wellness specialist. We also have contact information on our directory for the USDA Food Distribution Office, those folks that administer that program, which is housed in the Department of Health and Human Services, Brian and Sterling, as well as contact information for your local health inspector. So that's the directory. And then we want to talk about the key terms and definitions for the school nutrition program. And that's included on pages 3 through 13. And use this tool to enhance the knowledge of important terminology and what that terminology means in the school nutrition program. It also provides if there's an acronym that is used in place of the longer term. So a good example of this is on page 3 with the term average daily attendance. That term has an acronym of ADA. And then the definition of what average daily attendance is also indicated on the form. In the school nutrition programs, there's a lot of acronyms because there's a lot of long terms. And we work with that program all the time and we use acronyms. And so if we're ever using an acronym in an email or in communication with you, please do not hesitate to ask, what does that mean? And use your resource tool that you have if you want more information on what those terms stand for. So we'll move on to some more tools for success. We've updated our compliance review checklist. So it's been updated since last year. It's been updated since it was distributed a little bit earlier this year to make it more comprehensive of all of the different areas of compliance. And so it's broken up into different sections. So like the first section is applications. What needs to happen with applications? What needs to happen with direct certification? So we go through all of the different program requirements, and the tool is used as a self-review checklist. So use it that way. Am I in compliance? Am I doing these things? And so if you complete the tool, go through the tool, use it as a resource, that should be very helpful in ensuring that you are doing what you need to in the program. We've also included important dates, and this is knowing what to do and when to do it. It is on page 22 of your handout packet. And we realize as bookkeepers, claim contacts, food service directors, that you have lots going on and that you're managing a lot of different things, not only the school nutrition program, but you also have a lot of other responsibilities. So all of our tools are to help you stay on task and to know what you need to do when you need to do it. So the second page of that important dates I want to point out is the timeline for submitting claims. Claims have to be submitted no later than the 60th day, calendar day, following the last day of the month covered by the claim. So for example, the August claim should be submitted by the 10th of the month for timely payment. Our office pays claims twice a month. The first deadline is the 10th for timely payment. The second is around the 20th of the month for timely payment, but you do have up to 60 days to submit a claim. It is very unfortunate when we are contacted by a school after that 60th day saying, oh, I forgot to submit my claim. Very unfortunate, because schools are only allowed a once in every 3-year exception or an exemption for submitting the claim. So that's a That is a very important date to always keep in mind. Get my claim submitted as soon as possible. So let's move on. So drum roll, we've started school year 25-26. July 1st was the start of the new school year. And I know many of you are maybe taking a break right now, and we appreciate you attending this training. Soon you'll be back at your job, but we wanted to get you informed of what needs to happen when you return. Many of you probably don't have breaks, and this is just a normal work day for you. But July 1st is the start of the new school year. And so with that in mind, this is the date the Nebraska Child Nutrition Program, the CMP, another acronym that we use, opens for school year 25-26. Now, this is the location of where the sponsor application, reimbursement claims, direct certification, financial report for non-public schools, ESUs, and then the health inspection report is located. So that information has already been updated. In that little red box, it says soon to be updated for program year 2026. Well, it's been updated because we're after July 1st right now. And so that part of the system is open now. So let's move to the next slide. So where do we find access to that? I know we have some new bookkeepers and claim contacts on this training today. Well, you can access that. It's like a website within a website. So we have the Nutrition Services website, and then we have the CMP website. And so you can enter through the Nutrition Services website. The CMP system is a web-based application system where claims are located. And so under Nutrition Services, it's under the school meals program at the bottom of the drop down, which will take you to the online application claim system. And that's included on page 25 of your handout packet. And then the next slide shows you what that access looks like to the CMP link. And so probably 95% of our bookkeepers and claim contacts bookmark the CMP system as well as the Nutrition Services website. The Nutrition Services website is where you're going to find all your forms, information about programs, meal pattern, but the CMP is where you're going to enter in your annual application, your claims. It requires a user ID and password. It is a secure system because it is important information. It's where you enter your claims, so financial information for payment. So if we move to the next slide, the question then becomes, do you have a new authorized representative this year? And a new authorized representative is the SFA, the School Food Authority, staff member who agrees to and is responsible for the administration of the school nutrition programs approved by the SFA sponsor application in accordance to federal regulations. So typically that person is a school superintendent, maybe a principal in a private school, or the director of finance or business operations in a school. That is the person that is ultimately responsible for the program operations, compliance with the rules and regulations of the program. So typically what happens in July is when we see movement of superintendents. And when a superintendent leaves the district and a new superintendent comes into the district, then we need to unauthorize the former superintendent for access and allow the new superintendent, principal, finance or business person access into the CMP system. So that requires the completion of a form called the Authorized Representative Responsible Individual Profile, and that's included in your handout packet on page 26. Once that is completed, it is submitted to Nutrition Services. A specific user ID and password for access to the CMP system is sent to the new authorized representative. And our office unactivates the former authorized representative. So we've included that in your handout packet, and then on the next slide, I'm going to show you where to find that form on the Nutrition Services website. So it's at the same location where we have access to linking to the CMP system. It's called the CMP System Access Form. And so it's listed underneath there. And when you complete your application and you have a new authorized representative, the system will require you to upload that computer access form as well. So let's move to the next slide. So adding new user and updating existing accounts. The authorized representative, the person in charge of the program, ultimately in charge of the program, that would be the superintendent, principal, business manager, has what we call administrator rights for their SFA, their school food authority, in the CMP system. The CMP Security Administrator Manual provides instructions for adding users, modifying user access, and for inactivating user profiles for staff who no longer need to use the CMP system. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a very secure system, and access to the system needs to be monitored. And so the security manual is included in your handout packets on page 27 through 31. And it is also on the web page for the login to the CMP system. And I want to point out that program integrity is a must. All pages of the CMP system are date and user stamped. And if there's an old user, if someone's using an old user ID and password, we know it because it's date stamped. That person may have left 2 years ago and their user ID and password is still being used. So it's a matter of making sure that the information is correct and that individuals that need access to the CMP system have their own user ID and password. Next slide. So now that we've talked about program integrity and logging on to the system, now we're going to enter the school nutrition program, the CMP website. And as you look at the slide, we can see that there's a dark blue bar that goes across, and we can see there's applications. Okay, that would be where the new application is entered, as well as there's a drop-down box of other information that has to be completed at different times. That's where we go back to our important dates. Then we can see where claims are entered. We see compliance, report security, a search, And then also over on the right-hand side of the page, we can see the colorful box where we can navigate different programs. So if your school happens to participate in not only the school nutrition programs, but perhaps maybe you participate in the summer food service program, then you can navigate to different programs by clicking on that box. And then we also have the year highlighted. You can navigate to different years in the program. So you can go back to the previous year, several previous years. And so if you want to see how the application was completed for school year 24-25, you can navigate to that. If you want to see the claims that were submitted for prior years, you can navigate to previous claim years. So let's move to the next slide. One thing I want to talk about right now that is for our non-public schools, our private schools, our residential care institutions, our RCCIs is what that's referred to. Those would be like our juvenile justice facilities that participate in the program. We also have our government agencies, which are our ESUs that provide services, meals to students that attend those ESUs. Because you're not a public school submitting the annual financial report, you're required to submit the annual financial report in CMP. And the due date for that is July 15th. And so you're reporting financial information for school year 24-25, July 1st through June 30th of school year 24-25 financial information. So cost information, revenue information. And with that, the net cash resources. So what's the ending balance in the account at the end of the school year, which would be June 30th. And so net cash resource amount cannot be a negative number. It has to be either zero or a positive balance because programs can't operate with a negative balance. So there would need to be some sort of school district transfer into the program to have a zero balance or a positive balance at the end of the school year, June 30th. So once again, I want to emphasize public schools submit this information on the school district's annual financial report. And the acronym for that is the AFR to NDE. And the date of completion is November 1st. So the school nutrition program is part of that annual financial report. That's submitted directly to the Department of Education. So our public schools do not complete the annual financial report in CMP. So due date July 15th for the submission in CMP of the annual financial report. Moving on to the next slide. We want to keep that ball rolling. So now it is time to complete the school year 25-26 school nutrition program application. Our residential facilities are RCCIs because they operate year-round. Would be submitting a July claim. That's the start of the new program year. And they are required to submit their application by July 15th. So our office can approve that application so the claim for reimbursement for July can be submitted in August for timely payment. Now, all other sponsors are our schools, our non-publics that begin operations in August. You need to submit your application by August 15th for timely payment of the August claim in September. So just a reminder, claims for reimbursement cannot be entered for payment without an approved application. So program specialists are assigned to approve your application, and we need to have those submitted by August 15th. So I looked to see how many had started, and we have about 75 that have started their application for this new school year, 25-26. So we have about 300 other sponsors that need to submit their application. So it's a lot of applications that we need to approve for timely payment. So the sooner you can get it in, the better, sooner it can be submitted. So let's move to the next slide. Complete the entire application packet. We're not going to go in depth through the application packet because we have provided you a very complete application guide, and that would be included on handout pages 32 through 41 of your handout packet. I do want to emphasize that your packet is assigned to a program specialist that will work with you to get your application approved. And in completing your application, there's several different parts to the application. There's the sponsor application, the site applications. The site applications are for each individual site where meals are served. That's specific to the individual sites. The sponsor application is kind of the overarching application that isn't specific to the sites, but is specific to the sponsor, okay, how the sponsor operates. With that, there's also a checklist summary. The checklist summary will automatically populate as certain questions are answered in the application, in the sponsor application and site application. And so with that, the checklist summary tells you what you need to submit or upload. There's also the attachment list, which is another feature of the application packet to upload important information. And then just want to emphasize, you're going to be completing site applications. Do not enter any information into the seamless summer option. That was added when we were in COVID days, and all students received meals free of charge. We operated during, we needed to operate through that program at that time, but it's still on the application, but do not enter information into the seamless summer. Once everything has a green check mark, then you're going to push the red submit for approval button. And then the program specialist that's assigned to your application packet receives notification you've submitted the application, and that is their cue to go in and approve the application or work towards approving the application. So let's move to the next slide. So once again, I want to emphasize important contact information on the sponsor application. There are 3 individuals listed as points of contact for the program. The first is the authorized representative, and we've talked about who that person needs to be. That is the person ultimately responsible for the operation of the program. And once again,
I'm not hearing Sean. Are you still there?
Yeah, I can't hear her either, Aspen. Oh, we might have lost her.
Looks like she got kicked off.
She might have got kicked off. Let's see if we can get her. Let's see if we can get her back. Hold on just 1 second.
I'm back.
Okay, great.
I don't know what happened. I guess maybe I had talked too long. But I'm so glad to be back because we're talking about such important information. The authorized representative, I think I've really emphasized how important that person is. That's the individual that gets a lot of correspondence from our office. All three of these individuals receive our emails, and there's a box to mark if that individual is new. So for our new superintendents that are coming into districts, make sure you're marking that box as new. If you are a new food service director, make sure that box is marked new. The claim contact, we want to know, and we can pull reports to show who our new individuals are. And with that, make sure that your email address is correct. Every email we send, we have so many bounce backs because the email address isn't correct. Some error in it. So please ensure that your contact information is correct. That's how you receive communication from our office, is through those three contact individuals that are listed on the sponsor application. There must be at a minimum 2 different contacts listed, preferably 3 different individuals that are doing the program operations. We've had schools in the past that have listed the same individual for all 3 responsibilities. And when that person unexpectedly steps out of their position, then all communication with our office ends. And that has happened. It is super unfortunate. But we rely on your email addresses and your information being up to date. And with that also being said, if there's a change in any of those 3 positions during the school year, then that information needs to be updated with the new contact individual. So let's move to the next slide. The UEI number, the unique entity number. Every sponsor has a UEI number. It's a reporting number for those individuals receiving federal funds, and it's a requirement. And every year we struggle with dates for the UEI number. And I want to emphasize that's the date the registration was completed or renewed. It's not the end date, but it is the date it was completed or renewed. So let's look at the date that's on the slide. We have 5/9/2024. UEI numbers are good for 1 year. The date is expired. The expiration date would have been 5/9/2025. We cannot approve an application with an expired UEI date. So please keep that in mind, that when you submit your application, make sure that your UEI date is current. It's the renewal date. And typically a notice is sent from sams.gov 3 months prior to the expiration date to the email address assigned to the registration. So if you've had someone leave that was the person that was in charge of renewing the UEI, then you need to get on it right now because it takes a while. And this is outside of our office. It's sams.gov. We have information on who to contact and how to do that. And you just want to make sure that that UEI number is current. Next slide. The checklist summary I briefly mentioned, and I had mentioned that if you mark certain questions in the application, yes or no, then it is going to automatically populate the checklist summary. And that could be if you're using an alternate production record, which is a production record different than the prototype from Nutrition Services. Maybe you're using a software system that has a production record. That all has to be uploaded. So you can see when we look at the checklist summary on the slide, we see 4 items need to be uploaded, and that would be the alternate production record. For this particular school, they have a food service management company contract, and so that would need to be uploaded. They use an online application, and so that has to be approved by our office. And it looks like they have a new authorized representative because it auto-populated the computer access form. If you have a meal service agreement, which would be you're receiving your meals from another school or an outside vendor, then you need to upload your meal service agreement. And that's included in your handout packet. The most current meal service agreement is you can find on pages 42 and 43. Next slide. Food safety inspections. Actually, I had mentioned under the application icon on that dark blue bar at the top, there's a drop down of different forms that need to be completed. And one of those is the food safety inspection report. And the actual due date for the food safety inspection report is October 15th, and it's on the important dates. But as long as you're in the application now updating, I would encourage you to also complete the health inspection report. And you are reporting health inspections from the previous school year. So for school year 24-25. So that information is already obtained. You just need to add that information into the report, and then you can mark that off your list that you don't need to do it, and you'll be ahead of the game. So the food safety inspections deadline is October 15th. What happens if you don't submit by the due dates that are established? Then we put holds on claims until we get the information that we need, because they're requirements of the program. So just a tip, do it now. Next slide. We're ending this section and we're going to be moving into direct certification, and Aspen will be taking over. Please